She walked into the school with torn shoes. By sunset, an entire town regretted judging her. The little boy froze outside the classroom. His tiny hands clutched his mother's fingers as laughter echoed through the hallway. "Mom, maybe we should just go home." The woman looked down at her 7-year-old son, forcing a smile that hid months of exhaustion. "No, sweetheart," she whispered. "Today changes everything." Neither of them noticed the elderly man watching from across the parking lot. Within 24 hours, that same school would be begging the single mother they had just humiliated for forgiveness. Rain covered the streets of Cedar Grove, Colorado. 32-year-old Grace Holloway parked her 15-year-old sedan beside Lincoln Elementary. The engine coughed twice before finally dying. Grace closed her eyes for a second. Please, just one more month. That car was all she had left. 3 years earlier, her husband, Daniel Holloway, had died while rescuing people during a highway accident. He had been called a hero, but heroes didn't leave behind mortgage payments, or hospital bills, or lonely little boys who cried every Father's Day. Grace had sold nearly everything to keep her son, Noah, in the same school his father had loved. She worked mornings at a bakery, afternoons cleaning offices, and late nights delivering groceries. Most days, she slept less than 4 hours. Yet Noah never went to bed hungry. That was the only victory she cared about. As they reached the school entrance, 2 expensive SUVs stopped nearby. Parents stepped out wearing designer clothes. One woman glanced at Grace's faded jacket. Some people really don't know when to give up. Another laughed quietly. Grace heard every word. She simply squeezed Noah's hand tighter. Inside the hallway, children rushed past carrying colorful backpacks. Noah looked down at his worn sneakers. The sole had been glued back together twice. A group of boys noticed. "Hey, no," one of them pointed. "Did your mom buy those from the trash?" The hallway exploded with laughter. Noah's face turned bright red. Grace felt her heart break. Before she could speak, a teacher appeared. "Mrs. Holloway." Grace smiled politely. "Yes." "The principal would like to see you immediately." Several parents exchanged curious looks. One whispered, "I heard they're removing students who haven't paid tuition." Grace silently followed the teacher. Every step felt heavier than the last. Inside the office sat Principal Margaret Ellis, reviewing a stack of papers. Without looking up, she spoke. "Mrs. Holloway, your tuition balance has become a serious concern." Grace nodded. "I know. I'm working 3 jobs. I only need a little more time." The principal sighed. "The school board has rules." Grace reached into her purse. She placed a small envelope on the desk. "I brought part of the payment." It contained every dollar she had earned that week. Money meant for groceries. Principal Ellis counted it, then pushed the envelope back. "This isn't enough." Grace swallowed hard. "I'll have the rest next Friday." "I'm sorry." The principal folded her hands. "If payment isn't completed within 48 hours, Noah will lose his place here." Grace couldn't breathe. Noah had already lost his father. She couldn't let him lose his school, too. As she left the office, she noticed the elderly man from the parking lot sitting quietly outside the reception area. He smiled kindly. "You look like you've been carrying the whole world." Grace forced a polite smile. "Some days feel that way." The old man stood. "You remind me of someone." She nodded politely before walking away. Neither of them knew. That meeting would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Grace Holloway woke up before sunrise. Her small apartment was silent except for the sound of Noah breathing peacefully in the next room. For a moment, she just stood there watching him sleep. His father used to say something she never forgot. "Grace, the greatest thing we can give a child isn't money. It's the feeling that they matter." She wiped away a tear and walked into the kitchen. The refrigerator was nearly empty. A carton of milk, 2 eggs, half a loaf of bread. She smiled sadly. Enough for breakfast. That was how she survived, finding reasons to call impossible things enough. At Lincoln Elementary, rumors had already spread. Parents whispered near the entrance. "Apparently, she can't even afford tuition. Why would someone like that send her child here?" Grace heard them, but she kept walking, because Noah was watching, and she refused to teach him shame. Inside the classroom, Noah sat quietly. He avoided looking at his shoes. His teacher, Mrs. Harper, noticed. Everything okay, Noah? He nodded, but his eyes said something different. Before Mrs. Harper could ask again, the classroom door opened. Principal Margaret Ellis stepped inside. Mrs. Harper, could I speak with Noah for a moment? The room became silent. Noah looked nervous. He thought he was in trouble. But when he entered the hallway, someone unexpected was waiting. The elderly man from yesterday. He smiled. Hello, Noah. Noah looked confused. Do I know you? The man laughed softly. No, but I know something important about you. What? You have your father's courage. Noah froze. How do you know my dad? The man's expression changed. His eyes became emotional. Because Daniel Holloway saved my life. The hallway went silent. Noah stared at him. You knew my dad? The old man nodded. My name is William Carter. He was one of the most successful businessmen in Colorado. Founder of Carter Industries. A billionaire known for buying struggling companies and turning them around. But very few people knew about the accident 3 years ago. That night, William's car had crashed on a mountain road during a storm. Many people drove past, but Daniel Holloway stopped. He risked his own life to pull William from the burning vehicle. Your father didn't know who I was, William said. He didn't care. He only saw someone who needed help. Noah's eyes filled with tears. My mom says he was a hero. William smiled. She was right. Later that afternoon, William requested a meeting with Principal Ellis and the school board. Everyone expected a discussion about donations. Nobody expected what happened next. William placed a folder on the table. I would like to create a scholarship fund. Principal Ellis smiled. That's very generous, Mr. Carter. William looked directly at her. This scholarship will begin with one student. The room became quiet. Who? William answered calmly. Noah Holloway. Everyone looked shocked. Principal Ellis lowered her eyes. Mr. Carter, we didn't know. You didn't know what? His voice remained calm. But you judged anyway. Nobody spoke. William continued. Yesterday, a child stood in this hallway and was embarrassed because of his shoes. He wasn't embarrassed because they were old. He was embarrassed because adults taught him he should be. The principal looked uncomfortable. William opened another document. This school talks about character and kindness. Now is the time to prove those words mean something. Meanwhile, Grace sat in her car outside the school. She was preparing herself for the worst. She thought she was about to lose everything. Then her phone rang. It was Principal Ellis. Mrs. Holloway, could you please come inside? Grace arrived with a nervous expression. She expected bad news. Instead, the principal stood and walked toward her. I am sorry. Grace looked confused. For what? For making you feel like you didn't belong here. The words shocked her. Principal Ellis continued. We focused on paperwork and payments. We forgot to see the person standing in front of us. Grace didn't know what to say. William stepped forward. Mrs. Holloway, your son will never have to worry about tuition again. Grace looked at him. Why? William smiled. Because your husband gave me a second chance at life. Grace covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time in years, someone had recognized her struggle, not judged it. The news spread throughout Cedar Grove. The parents who had laughed at Grace's jacket and Noah's shoes now felt ashamed. The same woman they had looked down on became the person everyone wanted to apologize to. But Grace didn't celebrate their regret. She simply said, I don't want anyone to feel guilty. I just hope next time they choose kindness before judgment. Months later, the entire school had changed. Students started a kindness program. Parents donated clothes and supplies anonymously. And Noah became known not for his old shoes, but for his courage and compassion. 1 year later, Grace opened her own bakery. William became her first investor. But he never called it an investment. He called it a promise. A promise to Daniel Holloway. On opening day, Noah stood beside his mother holding a brand new pair of shoes. He looked at them and smiled. Then he said, Mom, Dad will be proud. Grace looked at the sky. I know he would. And in that moment, she understood something. People may judge what they see on the outside. Old clothes, broken shoes, a struggling life. But they never know the battle someone is fighting in silence. Because sometimes, the person everyone overlooks today is the person who changes everything tomorrow.